Coming up this week in work.
2 new workplace words, office frogging and workslop. You've probably never heard of them, but there's a good chance you're already living with the consequences. So what are they? Why do they matter? And what can leaders actually do about them?
And in our brand new segment, Truth or Lie, are left-handed people really more creative because they use the right side of their brain? It's a claim you've heard everywhere, and I've heard everywhere, but does the science actually back it up? So we're digging into split brain surgery. Ugh, you don't even want to think about that. Nobel Prize-winning research and what creativity really requires.
Plus, in the workplace surgery, a new leader has discovered disc profiling and wants to know if it's genuinely useful or just another personality test for slick marketing. Stay tuned for that one.
I bet you can't guess which way it's going to go. This is Truth, Lies and Work, the award-winning podcast where behavioural science meets workplace culture.
We are brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. My name is Leanne. I'm a chartered occupational psychologist.
And my name is Al. I'm a business owner.
And together we help organisations build amazing workplace cultures.
So let's get right into this after a very quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. It's Leanne's favourite time of the week. It's time for the news roundup.
It is.
You say it's your favourite time of the week, but then also you have a lovely gin and tonic with cucumber and lime is your recent thing.
Ginger gin with cucumber and lime.
So is that your favourite time of the week or is it?
Maybe.
Well, let's pretend for podcast production purposes, it is your favourite time of the week is the news roundup.
It's one of my favourite times of the week.
It's one of Leanne's favourite times of the week. It's time for the news roundup. What have you seen? What have you seen, my love?
I have a new word.
Well, we know what it is because we said it in the top.
I do. Office frogging.
Yep. Okay. Office frogging. You've not listened before. Leanne gives a new word. I try and guess what it is. If leapfrogging is jumping over something, so office frogging is it when you take turns to try and jump over the office?
Yes.
You take a trampoline, you jump over the office, a bit like in the original The Office, the UK office, which is better than the American. No, it's not. The American's better than the UK.
Is it?
Saddens me to say that, yes.
Not seen either, to be honest.
No, the UK is great, but really cringy. The American's not. Anyway, how do we get onto this?
Office frogging.
So what is it?
Office frogging. Well, this came from a Forbes article. And it's the idea that Gen Z, those pesky Gen Zers, they are hopping from job to job like frogs on lily pads, chasing better pay, better growth, or just a better fit. How dare they?
How dare they want a better life?
How dare they? So they're not staying anywhere too long and employees are starting to notice. Our thoughts.
I think you said it all. How dare they want a really nice job, a nice life when us Gens, Xers and Millennials had it really tough. I would down pits, when I was a kid. Have you seen that thing? It's really old, but I think it's Monty Python will sit there and go, oh yeah, but when I was a kid, I got killed twice before breakfast and then had to walk to the mill. Anyway, sorry, what was the question?
Office frogging, do you like it as a term? Do we think it's fair? Do we need to pay attention to it?
No. Yes
Okay.
and no. In that order.
Say more.
I think it's a bit of a weird term. I think it's just one of those. We have it all the time. TikTokers, I blame them because they say, we've come up with a brand new word and a brand new term, and this is what Gen Z is doing. And actually, I'm pretty sure that most of us have been doing that for a long time. It used to be something back in the day, used to say, they acted like a monkey. They never let go of one branch until they got hold of another. And that was more kind of like you don't quit one job until you get another one. It just seems common sense to me.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think you're right. Some of these are kind of coined on social media by the Gen Zers themselves. Others, I think, are just a word to take the responsibility away from the organisation and put it on the individual. Like, I'm not a lacking employer. You're an office frogger. And it's like, all right, children. Okay. My
lily pad isn't lacking. You're just frogging.
Exactly. And do you know what? The article did kind of go on to call out some of this. So Peter Juris, who's the CEO of Kick Resume, described the so-called office frogs as people who aren't afraid to take a leap of faith. And some data from Culture Amp backed it up, suggesting nearly half employees are actively looking to leave because trust in leadership is dropping, motivation is down, and people are getting restless. Interesting, because our word of the week last week was job hugging. And we've also got job frogging. And didn't we say, don't be fooled that this low retention is employee engagement. The minute opportunities come up, the minute people feel safe to leave, they will. And I think you're right. This isn't new. this really isn't new. I think it was probably the younger Gen Xers like you, Al, that kind of started this trend, certainly the older millennials, because we were the first generations to be shown that loyalty doesn't pay. You know, it's not you're employed with one employer until you retire with a gold watch and 2 kids. We watched our parents do that, and that was great, but then we got ourselves made redundant, and we saw other people get made redundant, recessions and stagnating wages and no pensions, so we learned to self-protect. And I think as well, there is just a hunger that comes from being young. You want to learn, you want the best opportunities, you're in a rush when you're early 20s. It's not new. I think the only word of caution that I would give is if you are job hopping too frequently. For example, if it's less than 12 months, questions will be asked. If you've got 4 jobs in 2 years, questions will be asked. That's not to say you can't defend it, you can't explain it, but it may put you at a disadvantage if the job market is particularly competitive. So a word of caution, but I think organisations just need to accept that if people are not going to get meaningful work, be paid fairly for it and be treated well, they're going to look for an alternative, as they well should.
If you want to do the whole like jumping around, just do gig work, do project work, because I know that looks really good on a CV. I did 8 projects in 8 months, and to be honest, I mean, I'm not advocating you do this, but if you were to job hop, you could always potentially position it on your resume as a project. Would that be dishonest?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. It's whether you can get the references as well that people are gonna require. But you're right, there are ways to cleverly structure your resume to not be at a disadvantage. But I think the real thing is, as a business owner, you have to ask yourself, are you giving people a reason to stay? And if you're not, then the job hopping may be on you. What's it called? Sorry, office frogging might be on you. Al, what have you seen this week?
Well, I've got my own new word. I was a bit jealous of Yeah, I know. I was a bit jealous of you coming up with a new word. So I've got my own. When I said got my own new word, it was in Harvard Business Review. Check me out. As I'm speaking to you, I'm drinking tea and I've got a monocle in because I'm that fancy.
Wow, I didn't even know you knew what HBO was.
To be honest, I did use your subscription to log in. So
did you? Cheeky.
Anyway, so my new word is called Workslop. What do you think that means? Pleasant, yes.
Workslop. I don't enjoy the word.
No.
I'm guessing it would be kind of like tasks that are just not very good.
Well, no. I was being kind. No, it's not
okay.
that.
It's a new word.
It's a new word, yeah. Nobody knows. Well, have you heard of AI slop?
No.
Right, so it's something which is big on X, Twitter, Twix, whatever you want to call it. AI slop is when all of the replies or the posts are written by AI. And so
say that again.
So a post is written by AI. That's classed as AI slop. There's so much more AI, or so many more AI replies on Twitter than you think.
Yeah.
And once you start to understand and you can see patterns, and you'll see the AI replies are basically empty. They'll go, what an amazing insight. I love when I learn stuff like this. No human's going to write that. And there's so many people out there who are using AI to reply to posts on Twitter.
So that's what Workslop is.
Workslop is similar, but it's when you use AI at work to produce something. And it's a bit rubbish. Now, I'll just give you two scenarios.
So the majority of guest requests that we get, we'd call them Workslop.
We would call them guest slop. That's what we call them.
But it's because somebody writing a sales pitch email using AI, and it's not very effective.
Yeah,
that's Workslop.
That's Workslop.
Okay.
Someone who says, I need a report on so-and-so. So they go to ChatGPT and say, please write a report on the tree frogs of Amazon. Their decline in the last 5 years, and it comes up with that's slop.
Right.
The difference is what this HBR article described it as empty content. They said empty calories was what they used. Where basically anything which comes out and says a lot of things but doesn't really say much is AI slop. Or work slop. Now, to be fair, we know a lot of people who also talk that way.
We do.
But
say a lot and say nothing at all.
Yeah, that's talk slop.
Some of it's made a career out of it.
But the content looks fine. You produce it, but when you scratch the surface, there's no real substance. Now, it is starting to cost companies a little bit of money because the research from, BetterUp Labs and Stanford found that 41% of workers have been on the receiving end of this work slop. So you think, well, is it harmless? No, because usually if you ask someone to write a report and then someone sends it to you and you can't really put your finger on why it's bad, but you know it's bad, you're going to spend hours rewriting it. And generally it's about 2 hours on average. People will spend rewriting this Workslop. So that's hours of lost productivity. There's frustration, there's trusts, all that kind of thing. Lee, what are your thoughts?
I think there are people out there who are lazy and not clever.
Yes.
And they're the people that are going to engage in Workslop.
Yes.
I think there are plenty of other people out there that are lazy and clever.
Yes.
So will leverage AI to the best of its ability and then spend the time putting the polish on.
Yeah.
I see so much backlash against it that it's like you can never use AI for copywriting or any kind of content creation. It's like, of course you can. It's a speedy little way of just getting the bones of something on there that you can then use your expertise and knowledge and research to flesh out. But yeah, I think it's getting old quickly, and I think I can see it reducing, particularly in terms of content creation. Because the strategy won't work. And the minute it doesn't work, there's no point in doing it. So people have to pivot.
Yes, you're absolutely right, as ChatGPT says all the time. What else have you seen, my love?
Deloitte's UK chief executive has received a 17% pay rise, taking his annual salary up to £4.9 million.
Sorry, I thought you said that was 4.9 million.
£4.9 million.
That's his salary.
That's his annual salary, yeah.
Nice.
Richard Houston, who runs Deloitte in the UK. It was reported in the Times this week that his pay has gone up by £700,000 in a single year.
Wow.
Taking him to almost £5 million. Now, on the surface, you might say, Al, fair enough.
I don't think I would.
Well, you might, because Deloitte is, to be fair, a multi-billion-pound company. It's one of the big four. It's highly influential. Richard Houston's been there for 6 years. He's been in charge for 6 years. He also has wider responsibilities across Europe and sits on Deloitte's global executive. So you might say, do you know what? He's earned this. Good for you, Dick.
Dick as in short for Richard?
Yes.
Yeah, just checking. Yep.
But actually, if you look at it, it does start to get a bit icky.
Oh, no.
So Richard got a 17% pay bump, right?
Mm-hmm.
Staff at Deloitte, in general, got an average pay rise of 2.9%.
Okay.
Equity partners, who are the senior leaders just below Mr. Houston, averaged 4%. So while the vast majority are getting very small increases, the boss's pay has jumped by almost 5 times that of the average Deloitte employee.
Yes, but to be fair, well-performing chair people or CEOs, they usually get bonuses, don't they, when business is good?
Yeah, you'd think so, and that might make it okay. But here comes the awkward bit, Al. Business ain't so good. So a few months ago, Houston himself told staff in Deloitte's biggest division, which is technology and transformation, to expect smaller bonuses and fewer promotions because the division had underperformed, and in fact, revenues in that part of the business had dropped by 10%. Overall, Deloitte UK's revenues fell by 1%. Profits, yes, were up by 4%. That was thanks to growth in other areas like tax and audit. But the headline is still this: revenue down, warnings to staff, tightening belts, and yet the chief executive takes home a double-digit pay rise. And the real shocker, I think, for me is when you put these ratios, when you put this into ratios. So Mr. Houston is now paid 65 times more than median Deloitte salary of £75,000. Last year, it was 58 times. So the gap isn't just huge, it's growing. Mm-hmm. Which leaves the question, how do leaders justify rewards at the top when the results don't seem to back them up? And what message does this send to everyone else in the business? Our thoughts?
Well, it's the message, isn't it? I think what you were saying there is, lots of CEOs, like the Boeing CEO, I think they
Boeing CEO has had a pickle of a year, hasn't he?
He has, but he's still taken home like $30 million or something as a salary. I was about to say something like a career-taking nosedive, but that's bad. That's in bad taste. So I will not be saying that. Just so we're clear, right? So Houston's paid 65 times the median salary. So that means that there are 65 people he could employ if he didn't take any money.
Yeah.
Right. But his increase is 700,000 and the median 75,000. So actually, just the increase alone could pay for 10 median Deloitte. Yeah. So if he went, do you know what? I'm not taking this increase. He's still going to do very well and get paid the same as 65 employees, but he's also going to save 10 jobs. It just seems in really bad taste, if the truth be told. Really bad taste.
It does seem in bad taste. And I think the only thing to say is Deloitte isn't the only firm who's under scrutiny for this. Famously, CEO to worker pay ratios in major companies are massive. I think in the US it averages about 270 to 1. So by that comparison, maybe he's not as bad. But I think the thing is when the staff see bosses' pay increasing at that rate, when they're being told not to expect pay rises, not to expect as much bonuses, and loyalty starts to slip. And then performance dips because that extra effort that you get from saying we're all in this together just isn't there anymore. And it is mainly a corporate problem, but it's not confined to the corporate world. Smaller businesses can face similar risks as well if leaders are taking rewards in a way that feels out of step. And we have seen this with some of the clients that we work with, although it be very unintentional, these things can happen. So there's a few simple things that will go a long way to avoiding this trap. The first thing is being really transparent. People don't need every pay slip to see that of their MD, but they do want to know how decisions are made, how people are rewarded, how bonus works. That has to be really, really transparent, especially if you're taking something away. Think about that proportion. If times are tough, it really lands well for leaders to be seen as taking. It doesn't land well for leaders to be seen as taking more themselves. And actually, this is my frustration when it comes to layoffs. As you said, Al, if just that pay rise hadn't been taken, would it potentially save 10 jobs? And that I have beef with. More from an organisational perspective, because it's just going to tank the organisation for years to come. And yeah, so it could be anything. It could be profit sharing. It could be better benefits. It could be smaller gestures. But the point is, it's not just about money, is it? As you said, Al, it's the message. And people want to know that their contributions count, not just the dicks at the top.
The ticks at the top. I like that. That should have been the headline, I think. It seems myopic. Is that the right word? When you don't really look at something properly. There are plenty of... I've read quite a few people. I want to say the chairman of Costco. Maybe I've made that up. But there was someone, a chairperson or a CEO, who instead of taking the bonus, split it amongst their employees because they said no one else, no one else is getting bonus, so I'm not getting a bonus. So split it. So I'm sure everyone only got like 50 quid or something. But still, it's like you say, it's that extra bit. And I've never actually earned 4 million pounds.
I've never earned 700,000. That was just the increase.
But the thing is, at that point you go, well, do you need that extra 700,000? Is it really going to make a difference?
When are you just simply rich enough?
Anyway, that's a different... If you're interested in that kind of conversation, then go back to MFD, Megan Furlong Detroit. She was maybe episode 234 or something, 235. She's a really interesting woman, but also she talks a lot about this kind of thing, whilst also building a business, being an entrepreneur herself, and making money. So it's not about like no one can make money. It's about, come on, guys, don't be a dick. There you go. Don't be a dick.
It's when making more money, it's actually making things harder for you in other places.
Yes.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Anyway, Lee, does that conclude our business?
That concludes our news roundup. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Love, all the links are in the show notes. We'll come back to you after this very short break with our brand new segment, a second week of it, Truth or Lie, plus our world famous weekly workplace surgery where I put your questions to Leanne. We'll see you in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It is time for our new segment, Truth or Lie. We need a theme tune for this. No.
Oh.
No,
Cue the theme tune.
Yeah. I'm not going to put a theme tune in this week. Sorry, I know, I've disappointed you. Anyway, time for Truth or Lie, which is our weekly myth-busting segment. This is where we take those psychology sound bites you've probably seen on TikTok or LinkedIn post, or as Leanne and I call it, TikTube, which is the TikTok for the older generation.
YouTube Shorts.
Yep. Or maybe it's a management training session. We're going to ask you, does the evidence actually back this up?
Yeah, let's be honest. Psychology appears full of nice little neat claims that feel very true. They're simple, they're catchy, and they spread fast. But when you do scratch that surface, a lot of them are built on half-truths, or they've been stretched way beyond the research entirely.
Last week we talked about white noise and concentration, and next week we're going to pick something that, like we've said, in fact, if you've got an idea for it, drop us an email. But today, our Truth or Lie is this. Leanne, are left-handed people more creative because they use the right side of their brain? Just in case you haven't heard that, I think that is true, isn't it? That the left hand is controlled by the right-hand side of the brain. Is that right?
I shall get into this.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Lee.
So yeah, are left-handed people more creative? I've definitely heard this before. I think the majority of people has. So yes, basically, the left side of your brain is logical and analytical. The right side is creative and artistic. That's the thought. And that's because the right hemisphere controls the left hand.
Right.
So left-handed means that right side of your brain is dominant, which means it's creative and autistic. So left-handed must
autistic or artistic?
Artistic,
Sorry, I think you said
creative
autistic.
and artistic. So yes, left-handers must be more creative. It's a nice little story, isn't it? But humans are a little bit more complicated than that, Al.
Yes, I thought there might be.
So let's start at the beginning. The brain does have two hemispheres. This is true. And they are connected.
And we have two hands.
That is also true. So our two hemispheres in our brain are connected by a bundle of fibers, and that's called the corpus callosum. It's not important, but I wanted to sound clever. And yes, each hemisphere does have its specialties. So the left hemisphere, or what we hear called the logical brain, is more involved in language, structure, and step-by-step processing. So the sort of thing that you rely on when you're writing an email. You have to be very precise. You're working through a budget. You're following a formula. The right hemisphere, on the other hand, the creative brain, in little bunny ears, is stronger when the task needs imagination or pattern spotting. So it's when a designer is sketching out a new logo. It might help you catch the meaning behind someone's expression. It's what gets you swept up in a piece of music, Al. It's that whole picture awareness, and that's a big part of what we call creative thinking. So there is some truth there. We have a left hemisphere, a right hemisphere. They control the other opposite sides of the body. So yeah, it's that part is true. This idea caught on in the 1960s from a very famous study from Roger Sperry. This is so famous, it's actually included on the curriculum in the UK for A-level psychology. Yeah, it's one of like the seminal works that need to be taught. So basically, and I'm going to try and explain this really simply because it's a bit head fudgy, but
literally,
yeah, literally. So Roger Sperry was studying patients who had a split brain. So Roger Sperry was studying patients who had a split brain procedure. So that was when people had really severe forms of epilepsy. They didn't know how to treat it at the time. So to stop the seizures spreading, surgeons would cut the corpus callosum, those fibers in between that would bring up connect the brains. So Sperry then realised that this gave him a chance to study two sides of the brain, almost as if they were separate minds because they're no longer connected, they're no longer communicating with each other. So he ran a series of experiments. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Just out of interest, the people were like could still like walk about and eat and all that kind of stuff with this Corpus Christi thing split.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm.
Yeah. Well, yes, there was some complications which we're going to go into. Actually,
right. Okay.
You were just one little step ahead, aren't you?
Sorry.
So one of the most famous experiments, what he did is he flashed a picture of a house in the patient's right eye.
Okay.
Yeah, so cover the left eye, showed the patient's right eye a picture of a house.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way vision is wired, that information went into the left hemisphere.
Right.
Yeah. And in most people, the left hemisphere has the language center there. So the patient could instantly say, that's a house.
Okay.
No problem. When he flipped it, so when he showed the house only in the left eye, that information went to the right hemisphere. Mm-hmm. The right hemisphere could recognize the picture perfectly well, but it doesn't have the machinery for language. So normally it would send that information across to the left side of the brain, so you could say the word. But because the hemispheres are disconnected, the information was trapped in the right hemisphere. Mm-hmm. So when Sperry asked, "What do you see?" the patient was speechless. They knew, but they just couldn't say it. But here's the really cool bit. So what he did is he handed the patient a pencil in their left hand, because this information is trapped in the right hemisphere,
mm-hmm.
and asked them to draw what they'd see. And that's exactly what happened. The patient sketched out a house.
Wow.
They couldn't name it, they couldn't say it, but they could reproduce it.
Wow.
Huge breakthrough moment, really to show that each half of the brain can take in and act on information, but only the left hemisphere can put it into words. That's where all of our language centers live. So yeah, completely groundbreaking. unbelievable. Sperry won a Nobel Prize for showing it. And because of this famous experiment, because the right hemisphere could draw and imagine when the left couldn't, and the right hemisphere means you're left-handed, this kind of got oversimplified and generalized to the creative right brain. Do we see?
I do see. I do have a question, but I'll wait till the end. You'll take questions at the end, I'm guessing.
We'll take questions at the end. So the reason this is a bit of an overgeneralization is because we have to remember that these people had surgically severed brains.
Right.
In healthy brains, the two sides are in constant conversation. They're working as one. So pop psychology stripped away that nuance and turned it into left equals logical, right equals creative.
Makes sense.
But in terms of left-handers, there is also some nuance here. So research shows that left-handed people are more likely to have language spread across both hemispheres rather than just the left. They also have a larger corpus callosum, like the fibers that connect them. So there's more wiring between the two sides. So that could make them a bit more flexible when switching tasks or making unusual connections, but it's not like destined to be. There are plenty of uncreative left-handers and plenty of brilliantly creative right-handers. So the best way to think about it, right, is like an orchestra. So your brain is an orchestra, and on one side you've got the violins and they're carrying the melody. On the other side you've got the brass and they might provide the power. And then somewhere else you've got the percussions and they're keeping the rhythm. But you don't get a symphony from just one section. You need them all working together. And creativity is the same. It doesn't belong to one hemisphere. It takes the whole brain. So in terms of truth or lie, the idea that lefties are automatically more creative or that one side of your brain makes you logical while the other makes you artistic, that is a lie. The truth is really more interesting. I think both hemispheres are working together and creativity comes from the whole.
If I remember correctly, when they covered the left eye, when this guy Parry or Sparry covered the left eye and showed a house to the right eye, it could draw the house but couldn't say it. Did he ever cover the right eye, show a house to the left eye, and ask them to draw it?
I would need to read it again, but I believe, yes, they tested it in different scenarios and yeah, you couldn't do it. So one would have language and one would have, and they did it in different ways as well. So they also had it where they'd search like behind a covered table with objects on it, and they could pick out like a key, for example, that they'd seen a picture of, as well as drawing it like it was very much more physical. So yeah, really interesting.
I would imagine the Nobel Prize Oversight Committee would have asked that question back in 1960s before when they gave him the Nobel Prize. So
I mean, I think it's enough, isn't it? Even if he didn't do that.
Not enough for me. I'm disappointed with you. Richard Sparry, was that his name? Sperry. I'm disappointed. But I guess he's not around anymore. He's probably a long time away.
No, I don't believe he is. But yeah, a very cool study, a proper groundbreaking. I used to tutor A-level psychology students, and we'd go through this one and their minds would be blown.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of because it's so complicated as well. Having to regurgitate this in an exam.
Yeah.
It's confusing, isn't it? But yeah, very cool. This is why psychology is ace. This is why humans are awesome, and why it's hard to be very simple, because we're very complex beings.
You are less complex than most, but still quite complex.
Are you saying I'm simple?
Simple being.
Okay.
It's a very simple being. No, that was absolutely fantastic. I love these. But if you tell us if you're listening, what do you want to hear next? Because I've got a whole list of things, but you come first. If you send me in a suggestion of something you want me to ask Leanne, I will very happily ask it next week or the week after. Yeah, so thank you very much. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Now is on to my favourite time of the week. Well, one of the favourite time of the weeks. I also too enjoy Gin Friday. It is time for the world famous weekly workplace surgery, where I put your questions to Leanne. If you've never heard this before, Leanne, as you already will know, is a psychologist specialising in work and organisations. She has the answers to the majority of your questions. And if she doesn't, very often she'll go and find someone who does. If you listen to the last couple of episodes, you'll hear we brought in some people from the Curve Group who are specialists in HR. Question number 1. This person says, I've just discovered DISC, D-I-S-C. Is it actually useful for leaders or just another personality tool? Okay, let's see how this goes. I've recently stepped into my first proper leadership role. I'm confident in the technical side of the job. Managing people is all new to me, and I want to approach it with a bit of structure. I came across DISC profiling while looking into different leadership tools. Sounds promising, helping you understand your own management style, how your team operates, what motivates people, and so on, but I'd never even heard of it before. It makes me wonder, is it widely used? Have either of you used DISC in a team setting? Is it something worth exploring further?
No.
Do you know what? I think that might be the shortest and most complete answer. Just in case someone pushes back and goes, wait a minute, I've heard DISC is all right. What do you say to them?
You're incorrect.
Are we really just leaving it there?
No, DISC is very popular. Some fun facts about DISC. It was created by the same guy who wrote the Wonder Woman comics. To be fair, that guy was also a psychologist.
Right.
But do you know what? It came from, the model behind DISC came in like 1920 something. And it's a theory that's never really been proved. And the scientific support for DISC in terms of an accurate way of measuring personality or indeed behavior is very lacking. It's not very robust. And also, if you're not sure, DISC basically will ask people questions and then give you a colour. So you're a yellow, you're a red, you're a blue, you're a green. And as John Amici, my favourite psychologist in the world, said to me, Leanne, how have we got to the point where the complexity of the human psyche is distilled into a primary colour?
There we go. Mic drop moment.
Yeah, it's so yeah, DISC isn't good. Speaking more broadly about psychometrics, and I'm pleased that you're curious, and psychometrics can be useful in terms of understanding your team and figuring out the best way to manage them. Broadly speaking, psychometrics fall into 3 buckets. You have kind of anything around intelligence, which will include IQ and EQ. You have personality psychometrics and you have behavioural psychometrics. Now, do you know what? I always thought DISC was personality.
Right.
But when I looked into it more again recently, it calls itself a behaviour-based psychometric. I don't think it's either, to be honest. I think it's nonsense. But I would want to dump it more in the personality because you're trying to put people into a type, which is very much steeped in the personality literature. Personality inventories have 2 main buckets. They're either type, where you'll get a colour, or an INTP, F and J, whatever they are, or they're on a continuum like introversion to extroversion. We're all somewhat introverted. Extroverted, we sit somewhere on a scale, and that gives, of course, much more variety of profiles that will pop out. You're not just going to get 16 or, God forbid, 4. So yeah, personality inventories can be useful if you pick a good one. Hogan is a great test publisher, for example, as is SHL. The problem with personality when it comes to understanding your team is personality is pretty fixed. It doesn't change much from the point of like 20 to 75. It's fairly fixed. So you're kind of giving your team members permission not to change if you talk about their personality, because they're going to go, oh, well, I can't finish that report. I'm not a red. Or I can't do that sales call. I'm not a yellow. It just limits people's potential that they'll use either for bad because they don't want to do something, they don't want to do some grunt work, or it will limit them in terms of imposter syndrome and confidence. So I don't think personality, regardless of how effective the tool is particularly useful in this scenario. I would go for a behavior-based metric. The Real World Group are one of my absolute favourites. Belbin is not a bad place to start as well. It's not the same kind of robustness of psychology behind Belbin as there is the tools from the Real World Group, but it's a really nice place to start and will give you team roles that you can discuss. But again, it's preferences. It's not a defined, like, you are definitely this. So good thinking. Honestly, if you're using any psychometric, you really should be engaging an expert, somebody who is trained in psychometrics, like an occupational psychologist, to really understand exactly the tool that you need to serve the task that you need it to. But broadly speaking, for this scenario, I would say behavior-based is the way to go. Look at Belbin, look at Real World Group.
Now, can I just check, because this original letter, it's not a letter, but I'm pretending it's a letter, said, it sounds promising, helped me understand my own management style, how my team operates and what motivates people. Is all of that encompassed under behavior then? Is that what we're looking at? We should be looking at the behaviors which will help us with those 3 things.
Exactly, because behavior can be modified, behavior can be changed, behavior can be coached. So in terms of a management style, managers also need to be adaptable depending on the team they're leading in the context they're leading it. So for example, with the early onset of COVID, we saw a very sharp shift to much more command and control levels of leadership. People needed quick answers, go home, this needs to close, that needs to happen. And as the pandemic progressed, it became much more open, consultative leadership in terms of, well, how do we deal with this and how do we overcome that when we've got a bit more time to do it? So understanding your own preferred style and how that looks in terms of the behaviors you enact in the workplace is going to be really important for you to know when the context changes suddenly or you're given a task that is, contextually specific. So, for example, if you're going through a merger or something like that. So, it's great for understanding how you show up as a manager and how you might need to start working on behaviors that you don't naturally enact. Also, in terms of how your team operates, you're going to see how your typical behaviors might differ to the typical behaviors of your team. You might also get clues of people that you clash with who might be very similar to you in terms of behaviors or indeed very different. It could also show people that you might favor unfairly because of this similarity and how they all work together. So it gives you just a really nice framework to understand yourself, understand your team, and understand how you can modify behaviors to get the performance you need in the context you're in.
Fabulous. Okay, so we're saying no to DISC, no to Myers-Briggs, no to anyone who does personality, because personality tests like Myers-Briggs and DISC are kind of the equivalent of those things that went round talking about the pandemic of going, what kind of chocolate bar are you? And you answer 6 questions, it tells you you're a Kit Kat or something because you have 4 fingers. No, don't go down that road. Don't know where that was going. Sorry, listener. So we say that's bad. What's good is something that measures behavior. And you said that that Real World Group is your favorite of that, which we'll probably put links in the show notes. If you do have to do a personality test, you rate Hogan, do you?
Yeah, Hogan.
Hogan, nothing to do with Hulk. It's a very different thing. If you just search Truth Lies Work Hogan, you'll see we had an interview with the Chief Science Officer, Dr. Ryan
Sherman, who's wonderful. Ryan Sherman,
sorry.
Yeah. Not to say personality frameworks and tests don't have their place, but I think in team development is limited because it's fixed. Yeah. What are you going to do with that? Recruitment, different thing because you're bringing in a personality. But I'd always go behavior for a team-based setting.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, so question number 2. How do senior leaders answer tough questions without actually answering them? Oh, this is going to be interesting. I've noticed something in company all-hands meetings and press briefings. When senior leaders get asked difficult or uncomfortable questions, they somehow manage to respond without really committing to anything. They don't dodge the question outright, but they also don't land on a clear answer either. It's like they've got a framework or script in their back pocket that helps them stay neutral and in control. Is there a technique leaders use to handle these moments, or is it just practice? Lee, do you think this person's asking how they can do it or how they do it? Does the person writing in want to learn this skill, or are they just curious about how these people have learned the skill?
I think maybe it's a little bit of both. But I think, is there a technique leaders can use? Yes. Is it just practice? And yes.
Also yes.
Also yes. Do you know what? You use 2 words here that are absolutely nailed down what leaders are doing in these moments. They stay neutral and they're in control.
Right.
So neutrality comes from high levels of emotional regulation. You don't panic. You don't react immediately. And senior leaders who are effective are very good at regulating their emotions. And in terms of control, it's showing that people can trust you, that you've got this. You can provide that reassurance in moments that are often very ambiguous. So being neutral and in control are key things that leaders are trying to do in their communications. There are so many different frameworks and stuff out there that you can follow across psychology research, across PR and comms research, marketing, behavioral science as well. There are so many. So I thought I would maybe just share one that I quite like in terms of being science-led and looking at how our psychology and our brains can be used in moments like this to look aloof as a leader, but also sound very in control. So this was a model that is developed by a neuroscientist called David Rock in the late noughties, and it's called the SCARF model, SCARF.
I like it already.
Yeah, so it's based on...
Wraparound care.
Wraparound care. And I like the letters when you can...
Yeah.
What's it called?
Is it an acronym or is it... Anachronism is different. Let's go with acronym because there's no one here to correct us.
True.
Look forward to your letters.
So it's based on the neuroscience of kind of how our brains react to social threats. So it's that kind of fight or flight area of neuroscience. So how we react to things like embarrassment or power dynamics, uncertainty. The brain treats this as a threat and in the same way treats it, or a similar way treats it like physical danger. So if a tough question comes up in public, the brain is on high alert. So senior leaders will be media trained in how to manage this in the moment. So the SCARF model basically says there's 5 things people are always scanning a context for. Status, am I respected here? Certainty, do I know what's happening? Autonomy, do I have any control? Relatedness, am I included and safe? And fairness, am I being treated justly? So bearing in mind, this is for anyone who finds himself in a social or leadership context where there's a threat. If you've been called to a town hall, there's a good chance you're going to feeling a little bit of threat because you know a big organizational change is coming. So whilst you're feeling it, the leader is also feeling it, but wanting to control that in both them and in you. So when the leader answers a tough question, what they're really doing is managing these 5 areas, and in that, managing the context as well as the content.
Interesting.
That makes sense?
Yes.
So in terms of how this might apply to a town hall question, let's say there's some layoffs coming, because that seems to be happening everywhere at the minute, right? So in terms of the first one, they want to protect status. They're going to say things like, I know how much effort people are putting in. That's not going unnoticed. So I'm not taking any respect away from your status away from you. You know?
Okay.
Then they give certainty. We will be reviewing roles across the next 3 weeks and we'll keep everyone updated. Got a timeline.
Clever.
We've got an idea of what's happening. Then they move to preserve autonomy. So let's say something like managers will be speaking to teams individually. This won't be handled top down without input.
Clever. I feel reassured already.
Mm-hmm. Then they build relatedness. So say something like, I know this is difficult. I've been through this in my own career and it's never easy.
Oh, that's a nice touch.
Mm-hmm. And then they frame the fairness. So whatever decisions we make will be consistent across departments and based on clear criteria. So if you've got somebody put their hand up and say, am I going to be laid off? You've not got an answer to that question.
No.
But you've been protected in terms of the respect and status people feel for. You've got a bit of certainty. You've got a bit of autonomy. You feel the leader's more relatable and it seems like the process is fair. You've learned nothing to answer your question, but you feel reassured. And that's what leaders do. They're regulating the emotional climate. And that's why they pay them the big bucks.
That makes sense. Why they get £4.9 million a year. But that totally makes sense. And also you can see that quite often in, I think you see it quite often, like if at the end of football matches, if they're interviewing the manager and they've lost, the manager will often seems to use that sort of thing. Yeah,
and it's the ones that go off script and completely lose it will get on. They'll go viral, won't they? And get on the news, and everyone will be talking about them. So yeah, it's a cool model. But just to kind of recap it, so if you're a leader listening and want to kind of write this bit down, or give it to ChatGPT or something, what you're looking at in any of these difficult moments is status, so protecting dignity, don't undermine anyone. Certainty, offer timelines or next steps. Autonomy, give people some control of input. Relatedness, show empathy and connection. And fairness, be transparent about how decisions will be made. And to be honest, that's also a great model for managing change within your business, any kind of comms in your business, not just stuff that's a bit difficult.
Okay, Lee, I've got a final question for today, which is from a business owner. It says, I want to hand over the day-to-day running of my business, but what kind of role am I actually hiring for? This is really, really good. Love this. My husband and I run a small business with a brilliant team of 3. They're self-sufficient in their own work, but they still rely on me for day-to-day things like decision-making, etc., etc. I'm looking to step back from the day-to-day so I can focus more on growing the business and eventually have it running smoothly without needing me and my husband involved full-time. The issue is I'm ready to hire someone to take on a lot of this, but I've no idea what to call the role. I've seen everything from office manager to business manager to PA to director. I don't want to pitch it the wrong way. Has anyone else brought in someone to take over an operational management in a small business? How did you define the role and what helped you attract the right kind of person? This sounds like a beefy subject for you to get into, Lee.
It does. I'm going to brush over the what do I call the role, because at this point it's not the question you need to answer. It's the later questions you ask. So how do you define the role and what helped you attract the right kind of person? How do you define the role? Spend time defining the role. And how do we do that, Al?
Job analysis.
Job analysis.
You almost called me out there.
No, I was confident. I knew you'd know. It's such an important thing, particularly for your first hire, to think about what exactly do I want this job to do. It might be a very unusual job in a small business where you're bringing in your fourth team member. It could be very varied. It could be that there isn't a typical job out there that would do this. So the thing I would say is spend some time, you and your husband, and do 2 exercises for me. One, just write down general tasks that you want this person to do, very transactional, things in your day you'd love for them to take away, and get that all down on paper and then theme it. So whether it's around people, clients, admin, finance, whatever it is, so you've got a rough kind of responsibilities list of what this person needs to do. That's then going to give you an idea of kind of the level of, seniority this person is, complexity in the tasks that they're going to do. And then I want you to take each one of those categories and go, right, say it's managing people, supervising people. I want you to then do a task called repertory grid.
Called what?
Repertory grid.
Okay.
Or rep grid. Where you basically say, this is a psychology thing now. Right. You basically say, right, people management, let's think about one person we know of who we think is a phenomenal manager. Let's keep that person in mind. Then we're going to think about somebody who is an awful manager, worst we've ever experienced. And then we think about somebody in the middle that's like, they were okay. They were average. I then want to say to you, let's take 2 of those people. Let's take the exceptional manager and the awful manager. The exceptional manager, what was it that they did that made them exceptional and effective as a manager? And things will start to come up like, they could communicate really well. Okay, cool. Let's dig into that. Well, how did they communicate? In what way did they communicate? What made it so great? Was it they were empathetic? Was it they were direct? Was it that they were adaptable in their communication? Talk about it to death in terms of what that communication looked like and why it was effective. Then go to the person that was awful and go, what did this person do in terms of communication that was so ineffective, or indeed might have been effective, but what did they do differently? So then you can kind of see, well, our view of a great manager is somebody who is empathetic and transparent in their communication. Our idea of a terrible manager is somebody who is overly direct and unempathetic in their communication. Well, I now know that in my business, from my perspective, what I need the job to do for one, and the type of person I want to do it, I'm looking for somebody who communicates openly and is empathetic. And I'm not looking for somebody who's the opposite of that. That's kind of your first assessment criteria for your job that you're going to advertise. So then you go through each one, like, okay, finance, what made this person particularly productive at managing invoicing, or blah, blah, blah. And you go through that until you've basically got a list of what your ideal will look like. And you're going to get that more nuance when you bring in the average person. So you're going to say, this person was average at people management. So what didn't they do that the amazing person did? Or they were great, but they just weren't very hands-on. They weren't very available. They weren't very approachable, whatever it is, to get really nuanced. Once you then got this list of what we'd call competencies, you can then create a recruitment process that's going to assess these competencies and help you find the right person. And that is the real kind of rough bones of a job analysis in terms of figuring out what the job is and the type of person you want to do it. And then you design a recruitment strategy that's going to, or process that's going to select the perfect person for that job, whether that be through interview or work tests or EQ or whatever it is.
That makes a lot of sense. So basically, it's rather than writing the job description, putting it up on a website and then seeing what happens when people answer it, you're essentially imagining what the perfect candidate would be, writing an interview for that perfect candidate, hoping they'd score 10 out of 10 on everything. And then that you've got this idea. So if you've got someone who scored 95%, you're like, well, they're close enough. That's good. But you're actually properly measuring them. Is that right? Exactly.
So say you included a role play in the recruitment process to manage a difficult conversation because you need somebody who communicates with empathy. And you have one candidate who just didn't quite hit those behavioral indicators in terms of empathy that you were hoping for. So in terms of being open, being approachable, being calm, talking clearly, holding silence for people to respond, all those behavioural indicators that you'd say this looks like empathetic communication. But that candidate scores 10 out of 10 on every other competency. There's going to be plenty of leaders that will go, oh, we can train him in that. We can improve that. He's so good at everything else. But when you go back to your job analysis, you're like, no, this is the core thing of the job. This is the thing that we said that we needed. And the behaviours this candidate is showing, the behaviours that we said is what the worst case scenario would show. Then it's a non-negotiable that candidate is not suitable for that role. And that's really hard to do when somebody is so capable in so many other areas, particularly more commercial areas. But the reality is you've spent the time obsessing over what this job needs to do and the type of person that will do it well, that you have to follow the data. And the data is telling you that person is not right for that job.
Excellent. Like magic. I love it. I love it. Okay, so that's the end of the world famous weekly workplace code surgery. I'll put your questions at the end. We've got another one next week, obviously, next Tuesday. We've also got a new truth or lie. If you've got a question you'd like me to put to Leanne, then you just check the show notes. There's a way to get in touch. Lee, any other business before we let these good people go about their day?
Tune in on Thursday. We have another great expert interview for you on hybrid work. We're going to get to the bottom of it, Al, aren't we?
We are. And if you've listened to any podcasts or episodes on hybrid work before, you're probably going, oh, cool. Yeah, okay, let's learn how to do it. This is not like that. This is very different. You'll be surprised. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Tune in Thursday. We'll speak to you then. In the meantime, do the normal things, please. Subscribe, like, send us love letters.
Leave us a review, that'd be nice.
Oh, a review would be nice.
Yeah, would you?
Absolutely. Or send us a poem.
Oh, I would very much enjoy that.
Yeah, send us a poem.
Yeah.
And if you want to make it rude, then I would very much enjoy that too. So we will see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.